There's a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. We are living in interesting times and quite challenging times. We worked our heart and soul to elect the first woman president of the United States. Isn't that right? That's both interesting and historic. Virginia wanted her. You helped Virginia understand that. You helped this congressional district understand that. The nation needed her, and according to the popular vote, the nation preferred that Hillary Clinton be our next president. But the Electoral College is the constitutional measure of such things, and thus we shall have a failed casino operator. Donald Trump is our president. A crass, disrespectful, cursing, hate-filled, lying, intolerable bully who pretends to know much about everything while having little experience at much anything having to do with public policy and governance. This man ran down our nation last year, picking fights, pushing people around, promising somehow, by these tactics, he'd make America great again. Trump doesn't know what makes this nation great. It is that we conceived ourselves as one united, one from many. This got-your-back promise of unity has been our nation's North Star, what we have fought to perfect from the very beginning of this nation. We have struggled in fits and starts, not without pain, not without blood and suffering, indeed, not without a civil war, not without women being jailed and tortured for demanding the right to vote. The French made a gift to this still young nation of a tall statue, a maiden who stands with a flaming torch of liberty uplifted high for the world to see, beckoning the suffering masses to our shores to find freedom. Are we going to make a lie of that? What could be a more grievous violation of what makes us great than to divide our nation? President Lincoln said that a house divided cannot stand. More than any time since the 60s have we seen such intolerance by any candidate for public office based on a person's skin color, gender, religion, nation of origin, and sexual orientation. This is not America. Mature citizens who are hardly politically obsessive, I've run into them, I'm sure you have, who are just plain folk, cannot sleep. Some of you probably didn't sleep for days as we care so much about what this election was about and should have been about. Children cry at home and in school. We're reading reports of counselors trying to help these children get through what happened that's wrong here. Protesters take to the streets. The vice president-elect is booed at a theater in New York, and the president rebuffs an actor's plea for reassurance that we're in this together, the American promise. We are hard-pressed in the history of American politics to find anything like Russia's intrusion into our presidential election approved by the president-elect. FBI Director Comey irreparably intruded into this election in the final days of the campaign. The campaign maybe was rigged, but not the way the president-elect said it was. Still, we have Democratic leaders who encourage us to keep our powder dry, to give Trump a chance. They talk about construction projects as a point of agreement with Trump. They can work with Trump on that. They are normalizing relations with the man who would deconstruct our nation and its founding purpose. Does anyone doubt that Trump will continue to be Trump? If he can get upset about a show at a theater and someone he perceives dissing the vice president, poor guy had to run to dad to have it taken care of, what is he going to do in the Oval Office when another nation state offends us, him, probably personally, from his perception? We, the people, have to stop Trump's un-American intentions. We have the tools, the righteous constitutional means to do so. And each of us must do what we can, when we can, on every occasion that we can. If our elected officials don't represent us, we must represent ourselves, as has been true in almost every crisis throughout the history of this nation. We have to join the protests that define our legitimate differences, the fight to restore what our unfulfilled promise was always about. Equal, all of us, without regard to color or religion or where we came from. Who among us doesn't have a genetic heir or who didn't come here from some other nation? If you can, man, woman, and yes, child, because I've seen children talk about that, should march in the Million Woman March the day after. Whenever we grieve, we need something to do. When we sit Shiva, they were doing something. When we go to a wake, we do something. And then we rebuild and restore. We are through grieving. It is time to act. You will continue to grieve, but you will also act because it's too important not to act. What could be a more appropriate protest to demand respect for women and the rights our president appears hell-bent to violate and compromise and to dismiss, as he dismisses women by his conduct, admitted and on tape. There will be court actions, there will be confirmation hearings, bills on the Hill, and you must do what you can. Write letters to the media, to your representatives. Speak your mind to family and friends, if they're still speaking to you. As for whether any of us can make a difference, I believe the answer is a resounding yes. I saw a war ended and a president driven from office for misconduct when I was a young man. Individuals make a difference. Individuals can change history. Individuals, I believe, may be the only catalyst for change and reform and evolution that we have. Robert Kennedy said to a nation faced with apartheid in 1963, "It is from numberless diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each thing you do matters. If you don't believe it, you've already lost." He said each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, and daring those ripples, build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. That's what we're dealing with. Those words should be our guide for what we do individually. Are we on the same page? I hope so. Yes. Now let's get to it. The time to grieve is done. The time to act is now. Thank you. Join the Million Woman March. Act now.